not my custom to use coded messages. Right honourable friends have already shown that they can negotiate hard and that they have the courage to say no to proposals which are plainly not acceptable to this House, and they have already indicated why there are some measures which they believe should not be made by amending the Treaty of Rome, because that would bring them under the jurisdiction of the European Court, which has totally different methods of construing any proposal or any piece of legislation from those used by our Court. I was astonished by the speech of the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition. This is very serious debate. There are enormously serious issues affecting the rights, the future rights of this House, the future responsibilities. So when we're talking about the rights and responsibilities of this House, what we're really talking about are the rights of our constituents. They need to be treated very seriously indeed. Comments on the speech of the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition. I had come to the conclusion from what he was saying, the same conclusion that my Right Honourable friend the Chancellor came to. That he was going to have a single currency willy-nilly. He already made up his mind, and that the arguments that are used, if others have it, we must. That is an argument for a flock of sheep. It is not an argument for people who are sent here to analyze the problem and use our minds and use our reason to say which course we should follow. If ever it is said that whatever they do we must follow, then they will put all kinds of things on the table which we'll have to fight down very much harder. I know full well that his party made the commitment to a single currency and attached certain conditions. That commitment was made before the draft proposals were published. When the draft proposals were published, as the Right Honourable Gentleman said, those conditions weren't there. That in fact should have made a difference to their decision. Some of us, that the Labour Party might wish to hand control over our financial and economic affairs to Europe, or indeed to almost anyone other than themselves. It would suit them to get out of the responsibility and pass it over to another body. The central issue that will confront the government at Maastricht is that the draft treaties propose an enormous and to me unacceptable transfer of responsibility from this House, which is clearly accountable to the British people, to a European community and institutions which are not. That our authority comes from the ballot box, and that what we are talking about is the rights of the British people to govern themselves under their own laws made by their own parliament. It's rightly been said that it is the character of a people which determines the institutions which govern them, and not the institutions which give people their character. It is about what we feel for our country, our parliament, our traditions and our liberties. Because of our history, that feeling is perhaps stronger here than anywhere else in Europe. To draw a very clear lesson from what has happened under the Single European Act. We many of us gave assurances about the unanimity rule at the time, fully believing they would be honoured and the spirit of them would be honoured. The fact is that any powers conceded to the Commission by agreement are likely to be widened in practice and extended into areas we do not envisage. And we must look at the draft proposals before us in that light. And the other important step in the Single European Act, as my right honourable friend said, was the agreement to strengthen and improve cooperation on foreign policy. That agreement was never made part of the Treaty of Rome, and quite right not. You may say it was wholly drafted by us in the Foreign Office. I showed it... to whom I gladly pay tribute in connection with that agreement, and hope they'll be pleased. Something in one speech, a speech made by my right honourable friend, the Foreign Secretary, I think in The Hague, which suggested there might be majority voting for implementation. You'll take it in very good part when I say that I read it, analysed it and thought he was going a bit wobbly. However, the history of our dealings with the European community seems to consist of our conceding powers, of reassurances being given about their limits, of those limits being breached, and then of the European community coming back with a new set of demands for more power for the Commission. Mr. Speaker, that is the conveyor belt to federalism. And that conveyor belt will not be stopped just by removing the word federal from the treaty. Speaker, I don't believe anyone on this side wants federalism, but judging from the Right Honourable Gentleman's speech on the other side, they're already committed to it. It was never the intention, a little more patience. And never the intention, I believe, of the founders of the European community that the Commission should try to exercise its control over every aspect of a nation's life in this way. And I again was very grateful to my Foreign Secretary for that. My right honourable friend is used to both praise and blame for me. Agreed? Excellent. Good. My government is right to resist very strongly.
My honourable friend had a number of foreign secretaries in her time. I accept the tribute on behalf of them all.
As a matter of fact, I'm not quite sure whether you should, but nevertheless, that's why the government are right to... Now, I've never for one moment regretted being isolated in opposing the social charter. And if I hadn't opposed it, many of the directives which are coming forward, there are about 40 under that charter. It would have been assumed that we'd agreed to them all and there would have been applied commitment to them. It would have placed unnecessary burdens and restrictions on our industry and, of course, caused more unemployment. Most dangerous of all, when it comes to the transfer of powers, is the draft treaty on economic and monetary union. Being in charge of one's own economic policy goes to the heart of our democracy and our power. Give that up and you have given up your capacity to make the main policies for which we are here and which affect the life of our nation. That is before. No wonder they don't make very good speeches. They never listen. The most important thing is that a single currency would take away any democratic accountability for our economic policies to the people of this country. Now, I know that some people say, don't worry, a single currency will never come about because the convergence conditions will never be achieved. I must say the convergent conditions are totally unrealistic. Indeed, I doubt if they're achievable for many countries in the community. Give away to the honourable gentleman on the back benches for old time's sake.
I've missed her at that dispatch box ever since. Now, would she tell me if she was still in that seat of power, what would the right honourable lady be negotiating in Europe?
Well, if I might say so, I'm making a pretty good fist of just that. We're in the exchange rate mechanism. We have in that exchange rate mechanism, if we wish to keep open the option of going into a single currency, virtually no freedom of action at all in that time. Just listen to the argument I built. The honourable gentleman, in fact, had spotted it. It would probably mean coming out of the exchange rate mechanism.
Why did we go in? Why did we go in?
To keep our freedom of action. Now, this is the danger of signing up to this particular treaty. Why should not people, if they want a single currency on earth, not do it outside the Treaty of Rome? They could be had, we just said, we've had intergovernmental conferences outside the treaty. That would be the way to do it, and it would not get us into the difficulties which I've indicated of signing up to the concept of a single currency, signing up to its institutions, and being driven into what I regard as a trap. I called the debate on economic and monetary union on the 2nd of November 1989. in which almost universal opposition was expressed in this House to the whole Delors concept of monetary union and a single currency. As recently as November 1989, and I remember attending the next European Council and saying to my colleagues, it's no good. Our Parliament just will not accept it. It goes to the heart of our parliamentary tradition. It is the heart. And, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues understood that and were prepared to make provision for it. Now, in fact, there has been a colossal, inexplicable change, particularly on benches opposite, and they seem prepared to give up the parliamentary supremacy which has been the heart of our Constitution. If ever at some point in the future there should be agreement between the parties in this House to abandon the right to abandon it not only now but the right ever to issue our own currency, the people would have no choice at an election time about that enormously important point. There'll be a Conservative Party, a Labour Party, a Liberal Party, all say we're going to have a single currency, we're going to abandon the powers of the House of Commons, we're going to take away your rights. And there is no way in a general election through the ballot box which you can make your views known. And the only alternative for the people would then be to vote for extremist parties. So this is the question to which my right honourable friends must address their minds. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, says quite clearly he believes in choice. Constitutional issues warrant a referendum. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I come to the conclusion that we should let the people speak. Otherwise, we shall be depriving them of their say, which we know once they're gone, they could not then become back. Now, that may not be popular with some honourable members of my party, but I believe passionately in this House. I've been here 32 years. I believe that we should retain the parliamentary supremacy. I believe we should not make a massive transfer of powers to the community which is not accountable to our electorate. But I believe, therefore, that we should not join a single currency. I understand my right honourable friend and friends wish to keep open the option. The option is inevitably open because future parliaments may consider it. We don't have to keep it open. But I understand that wish. I want to be sure it is genuine. Genuine.